Two tanks of the AFU drove to their positions and started fighting. An experienced crew knows how to conduct an effective attack. The first vehicle is firing machine gun fire, which suppresses the enemy forces. Behind it, the second tank fires a series of cannon shots. The tanks line up in a single row and engage in active fire with the Russian group in front. The Ukrainians periodically continue to move to prevent the enemy from taking aim and finding the best position for a counterattack. The shots from the guns are fired in turns. Thus, while one tank is reloading its main weapon, the other is firing. This is how the density of fire is achieved, which does not allow the enemy to recover. A Ukrainian tank drives onto the main road of the village and fires with a canopy so that the shell flies over obstacles. Despite the lack of line of sight, the tank manages to hit the enemy, but the Russians were able to respond with a hit from an anti-tank gun. The Ukrainian tank remained intact. The Russian unit did not have a chance to meet the Ukrainian assault troops with precision fire. The M242 Bushmaster chain gun can maintain a high rate of fire to overwhelm enemy forces. Another gift arrives in the occupier's rear. A Ukrainian FPV that hits the Russians' hideout. The building they occupied turns into a fire trap, which is also bombarded from above by Mavic drops. The extent of the damage is shown by the thermal imaging camera on the drone. It allows the armed forces to make sure that all targets are eliminated. After completing the combat mission, the Bradley APC returns to base. The road is extremely difficult. Part of the way the armored vehicle has to travel on a road that is under partial enemy fire control and is heavily shelled. However, the APC crew is informed by air reconnaissance in which direction the enemy is moving. Bradley continues to fire at full speed to suppress the enemy and thus retains the initiative. This made it possible to successfully evacuate the mission from the danger zone. And if necessary, the Bradley can also engage in close combat, burning out enemy positions and drawing their forces away while the main attack is made by assault units on the other side. The APC's automatic cannon is paired with a 7.62mm M240C machine gun. An unexpected attack by such a vehicle on the positions of an enemy not ready to fight back becomes the decisive card of the operation and allows the AFU to force the enemy out of another position. In the afternoon, a Ukrainian tank and a Bradley were almost ambushed. On the sides of the road, the Russians set up their positions to cover the enemy's vehicles, with fire from both sides at the right moment. However, the AFU was the first to start the battle, seized the initiative, and made a breakthrough. Their frontal armor allowed them to withstand Russian assault rifles and machine guns. And they simply did not have time to prepare anti-tank weapons. The powerful fire allowed the tanks to break through to the enemy fortifications that the Russians had set up in the village on the right flank. The occupiers' positions were quickly destroyed by Ukrainian guns. The drones spotted a concentration of Russian forces. The long-range guns started working. The occupiers' APCs are exploding on mines. And then the final elimination of the enemy's equipment was completed by the AFU's FPV drones. You can watch their work from the first person. A maneuverable flight that allows you to avoid machine gun fire from Russian tanks ends with a sharp turn, a sharp approach, and a strike. Russian tanks and armored vehicles have strong protection and continue to move even after an indirect hit. This is a difficult target. The Ukrainian ATGM can easily penetrate this defense. This APC is no exception. The coordinated work of the drones allows us to hunt tanks like prey. After hitting the ammunition, the armored vehicles don't stand a chance. The detonation turns a formidable Russian tank into a ball of fire. And this drone delivers the final strike in this assault. The drone spotted a column of enemy vehicles and transmitted its coordinates to the artillery. After the first hits, the Russians tried to retreat, but their vehicles were fired upon with both handheld anti-tank weapons and kamikaze drones. This cooperation allowed Ukrainian soldiers to damage or destroy several pieces of enemy equipment before the Russians could withdraw. Russian troops were on their way to the assault. The occupiers' IFV accelerated under the cover of a landing and moved to break through. A mine that Ukrainian troops had placed on the road went off. The explosion did not cause serious damage to the Russians. There is an accurate hit. The APC loses control and collides with an obstacle with an anti-tank mine under it. But the Russians continued their offensive. They sent the MTLB by another route, through the field. The tin can steps on several mines simultaneously. Ukrainian FPVs flew out to destroy the target. Kamikaze drones allow for precise strikes to save ammunition in the face of daily attacks by Russian invaders. A surveillance drone recorded an FPV hit from the side of a Russian MTLB. The first hit damaged and slowed down the enemy combat vehicle, allowing it to be finally destroyed further. The Russians have placed structures on the vehicles that take the brunt of a kamikaze drone or dropped ammunition. Therefore, the pilot of the Ukrainian Mavic dropped several charges in exactly the same place. This allowed him to set fire to the enemy's equipment, despite its defense. A Ukrainian kamikaze drone was chasing a Russian armored personnel carrier. The pilot accelerated the FPV so that the drone would hit the target when it was jammed by the EW. Another FPV drone hits the hull of the MTLB, and the Russian vehicle loses control and hits a tree before coming to a complete stop. The Russians tried to hide another MTLB. They failed. A direct hit from the FPV destroyed the vehicle. Russians tried to move at night to evacuate the wounded APC more easily. A Ukrainian pilot dropped a grenade from a drone equipped with a night vision camera. A direct hit in the area of the hatch stunned the occupier's APC. Using grenades, the AFU burns 2 cans with fascist letters V at once. The attack begins with the destruction of a tank by a mine. The Russians' significant advantage in terms of equipment and manpower allows them to launch a massive offensive right under fire. But so far, the occupiers have not been able to reach their destination. Combining pre-prepared minefields with artillery and FPV fire, the AFU managed to destroy several enemy APCs and tanks on the outskirts of the assault positions. Another tank is stepping on a mine. A kamikaze drone stops an enemy APC. Another drone was nearby and immediately finished off a Russian tin can. Ukrainian artillery is firing non-stop. There are hits, but some targets still move on. Drones will now take care of them. Precise hits on the targets, and in a few moments the Russian tin cans turn into ashes. The abandoned, useless junk is burning with a bright flame. After disrupting the enemy's lines, the kamikaze drones chase down Russian equipment and destroy it, sometimes completely blowing it to smithereens. If a drone hits a hatch or an ammunition magazine, it can destroy a tank. The Ukrainian armed forces drones also finish off damaged and abandoned equipment so that the Russians cannot evacuate it and reuse it in combat. A Ukrainian drone spotted the Russians' hideout. The enemy is being destroyed with the help of drones. However, enemy vehicles blocked the passage. This problem was solved by the ram of a Ukrainian tank, which knocked out the already burning scrap metal from under the bridge. After which, it was finally blown away to make way for Ukrainian soldiers. Now a Ukrainian APC can drive under the bridge. It immediately enters the battle, firing at enemy positions. It is very difficult to respond under such fire. Fire from military equipment was combined with drone strikes. The powerful explosions made the already damaged buildings fold like card houses. Having pushed back the enemy, an APC takes a convenient position to fire. The walls of these houses are crumbling like sand under the fire of a Bushmaster gun. And then withdraw without significant damage. The Russians resort to incendiary munitions and even phosphorus bombs. The Ukrainian military responds with new developments, such as drones that are powered by termites. Just look how beautifully it works. Unlike thermobaric ammunition, which explodes, thermite simply burns, creating a large-scale kill zone. This is done not only for obvious purposes. It is also used to burn down forest plantations, which will make it harder for the enemy to hide behind them. FPV drones can carry about 500 grams of thermite mixture, which starts burning immediately after being dropped from a height of up to 30 meters. This flexibility makes such drones a versatile weapon for attacking any target. And now we are going to see how a drone that can fire an assault rifle at a height works. And the cherry on the cake is drones that can shoot down enemy drones. This is how it works. In this way, the Ukrainians shot down a very large number of targets. An armed forces drone found the ZU counter-battery radar and an ammunition depot. Both enemy targets were methodically destroyed by artillery, thanks to the coordinates from the drones. A Ukrainian drone hit a Russian self-propelled gun. Its ammunition caught fire, but the gun never stopped. It turned into a huge ball of fire with a metal muzzle, and the ignition of the ammunition led to an impressive detonation. Ukrainian pilots managed to hit the Russian radar station and S-300 air defense system. They are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Immediately afterward, the AFU destroyed several other large targets. The Russians prudently hide the Grad MLRS in dense thickets. The epic destruction of Grad will weaken the Russian offensive potential. Ukrainian drones are also used for mine clearance by means of drops. Such work requires care and jewelry precision, but it saves lives of the AFU soldiers. And that's all for now. See you in the next episodes.